Tonight we're going to examine events of the Cold War using images. This packet, the slide packet that you received in class, is number 11. Go ahead and number it. You could even write beginning of the Cold War at the top. And here we go. So for each image, I'm simply going to talk, and you need to make sure you gather or get from your notes at least 3 relevant pieces of information and evidence or significant facts about each document. So the first document here shows Germany. This is a map of Germany. And you'll notice that Germany is divided into 4 zones. So at the end of World War II, the agreement at the Potsdam Conference said there would be a British zone, a Russian zone, an American zone, and a French zone. And that way, no 2 powers, like Russia and the US, felt kind of bipolar, and it felt more balanced. But also then you would have a variety of soldiers going in and helping to rebuild Germany. You'll notice that the Russian zone is where Berlin is. The Russian zone is actually also the less resource rich and historically the poorer part of Germany. So that, for one, will play into factors of the future of the Eastern Bloc of Germany, but also it's significant that Berlin is in the Russian zone because Berlin itself was divided up into 4 portions the same way. 1/4 was British, about 1/4 was Russian, about 1/4 was American, and about 1/4 was French. Another way to look at this map is that about half of, or a little over half of Germany was run by democratic, free, sovereign states, and then the other half-ish, or third, was run by communists. So the Eastern Bloc and the Western Bloc. And so Germany became a symbol for the future of the Cold War, of communism. Okay, so as the video covered, and you can see here this map on the right goes into detail and zooms in on Berlin, and you can see East Berlin, and then Berlin itself is divided up into 4 different zones. And so one significant event was when Russia tried to push out American forces, British forces, and French forces from West Berlin. And so what they did was they basically put West Berlin under siege. They wouldn't allow any supply trains to come in or go out and receive new goods. They were hoping, the plan was, soft pressure would kick out any democratic forces in West Berlin, and therefore Russia could have a completely solid bloc. However, this was a difficult decision. It seems somewhat insignificant, but 1, it's when planes are kind of new, and 2, if you look at the bigger map, the planes, the supply planes that came from the western half to bring goods to West Berlin, the free people of West Berlin, had to go over Russian territory. So they were threatened with being shot down. In fact, Stalin said he would shoot down any planes that tried to deliver goods, but the U.S. did it anyways, and they were not shot down. And so that was kind of a significant tension point of, will this start a war or not? The end of World War II is very significant in Cold War dynamics because both sides have an atom bomb, and neither side wants to provoke the other side to use the atom bomb. And so if Russia had shot down one of an American planes, it would inevitably, or seem to have inevitably, led to atomic war. And so that is why they did not. So the Cold War oftentimes will seem like a game of chicken, just seeing who will react and who won't. So here we have our NATO alliance and Warsaw Pact. You can see the countries in green were part of the NATO alliance, and basically that said, should anybody in the world invade or threaten any of those nations, all the nations involved will come to the support and aid. And the key nation there is the United States. So would the Soviet Union decide to try to invade Turkey or Greece, like the document you read said it was very important strategically to keep Turkey and Greece? Because they're friendly zones along the Soviet Union. Should the Soviet Union try to invade them, the United States will respond. And so the NATO alliance was created. Russia took it as a direct target at them and created the Warsaw Pact. Very similar alliance. Should anyone try to invade East Germany, it's a direct offense against Soviet Union and they will respond. And so we have somewhat again a tangle of alliances, or a bipolar alliance system. Okay, next we have the Marshall Plan, the European Recovery Program. So Marshall, again, was an economics advisor for Truman, and they said it was very important, as you read in the documents, to provide aid with these countries in Europe. Unlike the end of World War I, we didn't think anybody should pay reparations. Instead, it was believed that countries should be helped to rebuild so that they could be free and democratic states and we could avoid another war. The end of World War II was all about avoiding another war. And so the U.S. gave $2 billion of aid to Turkey, Greece, Italy, Luxembourg, Norway, Portugal, Sweden, Switzerland, etc. And you'll notice these are all along the Iron Curtain. And the idea was to, one, show that democracy works and it's great and make friends with the U.S. Two, poor states tend to fall to communism. That it looks good to the poor. It says it's going to help them and the workers. And it allows Russia to easily go in and help convert those countries to communism. So for us, it was very important to support economically the weakened states around the Eastern Bloc in order to keep them from falling to communism. There was a philosophy that there would be a domino effect, and once Turkey fell, Greece would fall, everyone would just start to fall to communism. Here's just another visualization of the Eastern Bloc and the Western Bloc. Red for communist states, blue for free democratic states, and then you have our Scandinavian and Switzerland and our neutral states. And this is a cartoon of the Iron Curtain. You'll notice you have the United Nations is trying to pick it up, this curtain of iron. And on the Iron Curtain, take a look at the symbols. It's the hammer and the hammer and the sickle, the communist symbol. You have France standing alongside, kind of being helpless. You have the USA, and you have that little British man behind, and he's saying, "You try it, sister." And I do want you to notice there's oil behind on one side of the Iron Curtain. There's pipelines, there's chains. And why might the United Nations be a woman? A lot to observe here and take note of. You should make some connections in your notes. But what is the overall message of this cartoon? What do you see and what does that suggest? Go ahead and write at least three things. Okay, this is potentially one of the more important documents for the future of the Cold War. But you have Truman is sitting there in the picture. You have Russian pressure, basis for U.S. aid to Turkey, and you can see the Soviet clause. And then in the map of Turkey, you can see we have some former U.S. ships in the Turkish Navy. You can see some guns in the Turkish Army, some tanks in the Turkish Army, some planes. You'll notice that a lot of the aid we're giving to Turkey is for military purposes. I want you to think about why that might be. And then if you look at the breakdown up top, we have Army and Air Force totals compared to Navy, compared just to roads or general. So the value and the type of aid we were giving to Turkey was pretty specific. It wasn't like the wheat going to Rotterdam, Denmark, etc. So consider what might be going on there. Be ready to talk about it tomorrow. Make sure you write 3 points. And that's it. Tonight's reading, you're going to see Western Europe's shift towards democracy. and the Grieve movement, which will challenge government authority, civil rights for all citizens. We're going to see the European Union. Think about, is cooperation going to pay off? Is Russia going to buy into this idea of working together, etc.? Find out in your reading.